So, hello everyone. Your 2D arrays. Uh, what is array and why we when you are using the primitive variables, basics of arrays and what are the features that is provided. After the types of array, we 1D array and the 2D array. And using those, we are going to retrieve for each loop, and this for each loop we will switch to the 2D array topics. Retrieval the value. So I will be real time and how the 1D array. So okay, voice is breaking. I think you are able. Hello, am I audible correctly? If you are, just drop a note into the chat section, then we can get started. So, I hope you are able to hear me now because of the internet issue and some mic issues. So that's why I'm facing some issues, these kind of challenges. So let me just briefly get back to the topic where we have understand about it. So before that, we have an idea between 1D array and the 2D array. So the difference we are going to cover in our topic, which is declaration, creation, and initiation of those, and then retrieval some data. And then we are going to check where the 1D array and 2D array is going to be used in the real-time projects when we cover with the Selenium topic. Then I'm going to show you one program with the overview of the program. These things we will cover on the later on the lectures, which are on tomorrow, where we are going to discuss about the anonymous arrays, and we are going to cover these programs which people generally ask you during an interview or selenium levels, things that you are needs to be understand before moving on to the selenium topic. So let's start our topic with a brief introduction about the array and the topic. So first question, when we arise or when dealing with the arrays is why we have switched to array instead of the primitive variables. I hope you have already gone through about the topics where we have covered about the primitive variables, means primitive data types. We have where there are 8 data types that has involved in Java. So some of the examples is boolean, integer, and so on. We already have covered these topics so far. So let's say you want to create a mark list. That means you wanted to store nearly 5 marks in your database. Let's say so instead of 5 different marks, like we have creating a different variables. Let's say int mark1, int mark2, and whatever the value. Let's say the value of these variables is 50, and this is 60, and so on. Let's say I have created few more. So I have created nearly 5 marks so far. So these are the different marks that people needs to assign, for example. So let's say, so you can see in the primitive variables, for anything we need to create n number of datas where we want to store. For example, we need to add 5 marks. You can see we need to declare 5 different variables, and all those variables we need to assign those possible values. So that will take a burden as so that's why retrieval was more you can say more hectic. So and there will be some management issues as well. You need to manage all these variables with the different logic. For example, you need to print the value of mark 3, then you need to install some variables, and then you are going to use on the further cases. So to retrieve these kind of ideology over means for not, let's say instead of 5, let's say you wanted to have 100 marks needs to be stored in your database. So instead of creating 100 variables, we switch to one of the new things which is known as array, where only one variable is needs to be created that will help you to store all marks. So that's why we came with the approach of array, and that array can be stored any values, whether it's a primitive or whether it's a non-primitive. Non-primitive means the class is one, the string one, all those values. So let's say I want you to store a string of a array, means I wanted to string name is equal to Ajay. This is the one string. String uh, last name is equal to Dhariya. String address means 974, these values. So string city, let's say Gurgaon. So these are the different variables that you need to create for all those storages. Instead of all this, we can just create one array of string type, and inside that we can store n number of string, whatever I want. See, like instead of name, this is first variable I can store. Dhaiya can be stored here as well. Similarly, like this, we can store here as well. Like one more string can be also stored. So instead of creating n number of variables, we only created one variable, and using this variable, we can access any data, whatever we want to do. So this is the main thing that we have switched from primitive variables to a array. Let's go with the document like we already do with the same approach. This is the document we have prepared. So let's go with the first topic that we have covered so far, which is why we switch to array instead of the primitive variables. The problem with the primitive variables is, let's say suppose you want to store some marks of the 5 students. This is the storage that you want to do. So it was difficult to manage, right? There are n number of variables that you need to create, repetitive codes, n number of integers values you need to store it again and again. Since let's say instead of 5 like this, there are 100 students that you wanted to store, so not scalable. So no looping advantages was present to that one. So that's why the solution here arises as a arrays. In the array, like we have in these marks, so we can just create a marks of array like this and store the value, let's say 50, 16, 14, 620 and 80. By using this, we only using one variable like marks, we can store all number of values, and this can be scalable as well. Let's say I wanted to store one more as well, let's say I wanted to store more as well, so you can do anything like this. So this resolve the complexity or the problems that we have faced in the primitive data type. So data is stored under the one variable name, easy to loop in, dynamic operation can be possible against the same. So these are the first point that we have covered in the primitive variables. Why we switch to the array instead of the primitive variable. So now what is the basics of an array that we are going to understand the topic. The second topics is basics of array. That simply means this is the thing that we need to check. So first is what is an array. So array is a collection of homogeneous data types. You can say array is a collection of a similar data types, or you can say homogeneous data type element stored at a continuous memory location. Means let's go with the diagram on that part. So this is an array where we are storing some data in a continuous way. In the indexing going to be present. First is zero index. Array start from the zero index, 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. And let's suppose this is the value of 10 I have stored. This is 20. This is 3. This is 6, 7. This is 89. And this is 100. So if I want to print the value number 20, that means I need to get the first index data. If I want to print the value 100, then I get the data of a fifth index value. If I wanted to print value number 10, that means we need to get the index number 0. So this is the, by this indexing logic, we can get the whatever we want to data. Since it can be a homogeneous, that means only a same type of data needs to be stored like this. These all are integers. We cannot include other than this. For example, I have stored 10. I can't store like this. Let's say this is the variable I have created. Let's say I have a string, let's say Ajay. So this is not possible in array. So instead of this, we have a different concept which is known as Java collections that we'll cover later on. This ideology or this problem has been fixed by the Java collections. So far only homogeneous can be stored in the same array. And that homogeneous can be anything, whether it's a primitive and non-primitive. Only single types needs to be stored. If you are declare the arrays the integer type, only integer is supported. If you declare with the array of arrays, that means it will be stored with the string as well. If you declare with the float values, then only the float value can going to be accepted here. So the sorry, these things needs to be accumulate in the array topic. So the feature here in the array is basically index based, means there is an indexing like we have discussed here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It start from 0 only. So this is the feature of the array. If you wanted to print the value number, index number 3 means 67 is going to be printed. Only a homogeneous means same data type that we have discussed is the next feature. Second is a memory efficiency. Instead of declaring a n number of at any position, so it will create a block where the continuous elements is being stored into that part. So this is the main features we have associated with the array. So we have covered what is an array and how we have switched from arrays from primitive variables. After this, let's move on to the topic of types of array. Because our main concept is not about the theoretical portion. So main concept here is only about the how we can use these kind of a thing in our Selenium programs or the rest assured programs we have. So the types of arrays, right now we have three different types, but some of them has been divided into two subcategories. First is 1D array and second is a multidimensional. And inside the multidimensional array, they will switch to 2D, 3D, and 4D and so on. But some of the peoples are used to define with the three different types. First is 1D array, second is 2D array, and third is a multidimensional array. So these are three things that can be assigned by the arrays topic. So our main topic is all about the 1D array and the 2D array. Our multi-dimensional array is not part of your syllabus and you don't need to do that. So it's rarely used. You can skip this topic if you are only learning the Java from Selenium or a rest assured topic. If you are running from your own, you can do whatever you want. But for being an automation tester from more than 8 years of experience, I was suggesting you that you don't need to do the multi-dimensional array. Only 2D array or 1D array is sufficient for you to get it involved to that. Since now we move to the 1D, defining the 1D array and the 2D array. So what are the major difference between 1D array and 2D array? So let's understand with the diagram for better knowledge. So in the 1D array, there is a linear sequential thing was present. Simply means this is known as 1D array, where data is stored in the linear sequential manner. Let's say this is the one data, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 8, and this is 10. So this is the linear sequential manner the data has been pursued with that. So this is known as 1D array. And now moving on to the 2D array. The Excel, let's say, you can see in Excel, this is known as 2D array, where the row was present, the column was present, the row was present. Means the matrix form of data is being present. If let's say I have selected these, that means there are 5 rows and 3 columns here has been selected. Similarly, let's say I have selected this, that means there are 2 columns and 3 rows has been selected with that. So same ideology in the 2D array. So matrix is going to be formed, means 2D array will be looks like an Excel sheet. So in the real-time project, when we are dealing with the automation with the TDD approach, where we are fetching the data from the Excel, that means the 2D approach or the 2D logic is going to be implemented. So that's why we are saying that in the real-time project, when we dealing with the automation, we are fetching the data from the Excel, means we are reading the data or we are circulating with the 2D array. That means we are associated with the matrix flow only, not with the different flow. If we are searching up on the web page, means it's a 2D, it's a 1D thing. We are have all those web elements. Let's say there are uh, by this example, let's say these all are the web elements on the web page. If I want to check in on my web page, 5 number web element is present or not. That means we are linearly searching those equations, and whenever it matches, that means this element is present on the web page and it is passing that it is true. Means the web element exists on the web page. If the 5 element was not present, let's say instead of 5, let's say here it is written as 7. That means we after linear searching with 1, 4, 7, 6, 8, and 10, that means this web element and on the web page both are not present. That means the result is false, means the web element is not found on the web page. So these kind of a thing we are going to deal when we cover with the programming logic on the real end front, when we are dealing with the automation framework. So that's why we have a topic which is known as 1D and a 2D array are in our syllabus. 1D for web elementing searching techniques and 2D for data finding in the Excel file. So that's all for real-time uses of the 1D array and the 2D array. So let's start our topic on the 1D array and how we can declare it, create it, initiate it, and retrieve the values on those different aspects. So let me do with the flow. So like we already have seen here how the 1D arrays look like. So 1D arrays look like this. There is a linear sequential manner is being present like this, where we are storing the data of a homogeneous type. So let's say I have stored string value with Ajay. The year is educator at GFG. So this is this array I have created, right? Which store a string. So that means it's a array of string. Means there are different string type is being stored. So all of these are homogeneous thing. So let's move on to the how we can declare this array, create the array, and initiate the array in our programming topic. So let's create one package in our IntelliJ. So let's make it as lecture number 5. So start with the program 1D array test. I have declared this class instead of one cannot be start from the 1D1 array. So I have created one class. Inside that there will be a main method needs to be created against the same. So so far we have understand about array, how we are switching, and then we have deal with the types of array and the real time uses when we are dealing with the 1D array and when we are dealing with the 2D array. So let's move on to the declaration part. So declaration part simply means the variable you have created. This is known as declaration of array, like we done in the primitive data type. In primitive type, you are declaring the variable like this. So you just need to add a braces. If you are adding a single braces, that means it is a 1D array. If you are adding multiple, that means there are more than one array. If you are adding a 2, that means it's a 2D array. If I am adding a 3, that means you are it's a 3D array. So this is the difference between declaration in the array of type. So this is the declaration and how we can create the same. So there are creation way is, let's say I have declared the variable a like this, and using this logic we can, or we just need to define the size. Let's say I have defined the size of array is like this. Here you can see 0 index, first index, second index, third index, and fourth index. There are 5 index array is being generated against the value. So you can see there are 5 values has been associated with it. I think my camera blocked up. Okay. So this is the way we can create an array. So like we done in the class, we need to use new operator for creating a reference variable of any. For example, I have created a variable class A. This is how we are declaring the value. So same kind of a thing is being used here for declaring a reference variable of a class or of an array. Like you can see, new operator is being used. The name of that, for example, I am declaring with the integer, and here is a constructor is being called, but right now we need to define the size of an array. So this is known as creation of an array part logic. So we have these things. So instead of declaring all those in the separate levels, we can simply done in the same ideology like this. We just need to define the value like here, whatever the value. So this is known as declaration plus creation plus initialization in one go. This is the way we can do declaration, creation, and initialization in one go. If I want to provide the value in this array, we can do with this approach as well. Or if I have chosen this approach like above one, then we need to define. So let's say this is the array we have declared. Okay, so A is the name of the array. You can see array 0 index. I wanted to add a j. It's a string one, so let's make it as string like this. A of 0 is equal to, let's say, a j. A of 1 equal to dhaya. So similarly, we can declare array 0, sorry, 2, then 3 is educator at GFG. So by this logic, we can achieve this step is known as initialization, where we have assigned the value in the array. So instead of like these steps, we can do it with a single line. Like as you can see, I have declared the value in the single go. Same ideology we can done with the string value as well, like this. Ajay Dhaya is educator at GFG. So you can see by this approach we have declared 3 lines, but here we are declaring the value in the one go. So in the real-time project, whenever we are dealing the value, if you are going to assign the value statically, then this approach we are going to use. If we are storing some values in some that value, then we are only declaring the values, and after this we are initiating with the value of array of that size. Then only it get auto initialized with the value when we have fetched from the whatever the value we get assigned with the value associated with it. So this is the things that we need to have a proper designation with the 1D array. So as you have seen, declaration, creation, and initiation in a one go. So let's move on to the retrieval the data, whatever we have done so far. You can see we have added data in the array f0 index, first index, second index, third index, and the fourth index. So I wanted to print those values in the program. That means this is known as retrieval, means fetching a data from an array. Fetching data from 1D array is possible by for loop, for each loop. There are other approach you can use as well, like while loop, do while loop, but majorly in automation perspective, you are going to use whether you are going to use with the for loop or a for each loop. So let's understand by the for loop, and then we will move to the for each loop. So for each loop is a new topic. For loop we already have covered in our previous lecture. So syntax here is we need to define the values at which index it needs to be started. Then provide the length. You can see this is how we can fetch number of times it loops get started. A of length means it will print the value of number 5. That means the array size it is going to be print here until that time we are going to start the loop. S out value of array index location is, so A of I. This is how, let's say in the first ideology it will act as like a of 0. And what does a00 means? Ajay. So first it prints the Ajay, then it will navigate to the next line, and then again the I will increment it with the value 1. That means a of 1 means Daya. This is how line by line it get printed with the value using this for loop. So let's try to execute the same and check if the result is working with the perfect value we have associated with it. You can see Ajay Daya is educator at GFG. So the order is being preserved, and you can see whatever value we have assigned with that is being printing with the associated value with that. So this is known as print fetching the data from a array loop. You can see we have fetched the data line by line when we navigating to the array. So in the real time when we are dealing with the automation, we are navigating the arrays, or we're navigating the number of web elements, and then using this we are going to search if the value element is present or not. That we are cover in the later programs logic as well. So this is the first example we have covered so far, which is known as by for loop. So now moving on to the for each loop. So for each loop has a different ideology. In the for each loop, there is needs to a syntax change. Syntax here is for type of a array, type of arrays. You can see it's a string. So string needs to be decided. Let's say as I have chosen, and which you want to do iterate. I wanted to iterate a array like this. By using s variable means the string type, we can retrieve the value of the array whatever we have declared. I have declared the array with the a name, so that's why we are using a here, and we are, since it's an array of a string type, that's why all the variables inside inside that array is act as a string. So I wanted to print the value. That means the ideology, let's say copy this. So now we have a of I. Instead of a of I, now we have a s value, which is a string. So by same logic, we are going to print this. This is known as for each loop. If we don't know the how many size the value of that, then we are going to use in the for each loop. In collection topic, if you most of the time we are not know how much the number of web element it get contains on the web page, so we are using for each loop by changing the value instead of string to the web element like this, and whatever the web element we have, it will search the web element on the web pages. So this is how the for each look like. So let's try to execute the same, and since there is no such change in the output, you can see same output is being thrown because same data I am fetching in the array of 1D type. So this is known as 1D array. And how we can declare, we have done creation done, initiation done, and retrieval also done. So after all this we have covered with the 1D array. So now we will move to the 2D array. Since we have a 2D array inside that, so the things here change a slight bit. Like we did in this, you can see we have declared with the single value. So we can declare the value with multiple, let's say, instead of this. So you can see this we have declared with the 1D array. If I change to 2 bracket, that means it is act as a 2D array. Same ideology we need to provide, like this is a row. If I provide the value number of column, let's say I have declared value 2 and 3, that means there are 2 rows associated and 3 columns one associated, like we shown here with the Excel example. So this is how you can see. Let's mark it as all water so you can see. So this means there are two columns and 3 rows. Here we have 2 rows and 3 columns. That means this is also needs to be added, and this needs to be removed. 2 rows and 3 columns. If I mark it as like this, that means there are 3 by 3 matrix. Means this is how it's going to be represented in our logic. So this is the main difference between 2D array and a 1D array. So let's move on to the initiation and the differentiation on those part. So I hope you were able to get this 1D array, 2D array logic. I hope then you just drop a note into the chat section, then I can see if you are understanding the topic as well. Just drop a note into the chat section as well, and let me know. So let's move on to the our initiation point. So you can see the declaration is same. We just need to add number of times that we need to associate with it. Similarly, in the creation perspective, we have done with the same. You can see there are 3 by 3. That means 3 rows and 3 columns data, or you can say matrix, has been created. Right? If I make it as 2 by 3, that means there are 2 rows and 3 columns. So let's say 2 rows and 3 columns means like this, means this is known as 0 0, and this is known as 0 1, 0 2, 1 0, 1 1, 1 2. So I want you to assign the value. Let's, instead of general, let make it as text 0 0. You can see, let me zoom it out more. 0 1. So let's make it all as text to show you the value. So this is our 0 1, 0 2, 1 0, 1 1, and 1 2. So I want you to first row 0 row 0 column, 0 row first column, 0 row second column, first row 0 column, first row first column, first row second column. This is how we can say that we can assign the value in the same order. So let's assign the value with the same value. So the 0 1 or 0 0 simply means bit value. Since it's an integer, so we can assign the integer. Let's say I have assigned value number 40. So indirectly basis, like this, we have assigned this as 40. So let me just delete the value to show you what is being done here. 0 0 has been changed or been assigned with the value 40. Similarly, a of 0 1 is being assigned value 20. That means this is what I am assigning. And similarly, let's say a of 0 2, I have assigned value 30. So this is act as a 30. So same ideology, let's copy paste it again and make it as 1 1 and 1. So 50, not 0, let's make it as 52, 42, 32. Means 52, 42, and 32. This is how the things will look like. I'm using a Java programming language. Just an FYI, in the chat section someone asked the same. So we are using the Java logic here. So you already seen that YouTube Java session is our project name. So let's move on to that. So this is how the things will look like when we have covered with the 2D array. Same ideology I have seen here. And instead of this, we can do some more approach, or we can create in this number of lines or reduce these number of lines to a better things. Reducing lines like we did in 1D array. And how we had done the same? We have declare, create, and initiate in the single line. The same ideology can be done here. Let's say I have declared this as matrix. Now declare it like this. Now inside this we need to provide the value. So 40, 20, and 30. So this is the first value that you need to provide. Means 40, 20, and 30. Second is 52, 42, and 32. You can see this is how we have declare, the value inside the array. We have reduced the line number of code by using this, where we have initiate, declare, and provide the value in the same thing. If we want to retrieve the logic like we did in the 1D array, 1D array is a linear sequential manner like this. So we need to have a for loop. But there are n number of data with 2D matrix has been involved. So that means first we need to read with the row wise and one with the column wise. One with the row wise and second with the column wise. Then row again and then column. Second row and then first column. Then second row, second column, second row, third column. So this is how we are retrieving. So that means there are two different loops, means two for each for loops needs to be considered while reading the data when we are dealing with the 2D array. So this is the second difference between 2D array and a 1D array. So I have created this array. So let's remove this. I already have created one D array. So only let's fetch this data using two different approaches. So like we did in the 1D array, we have fetch data using for loop and for each loop. Same ideology we are going to do here with 2D array. So how we can do that? See, for loop syntax, there are two for loops that you need to create. One for loop for row, one for loop for the column. So this is the ideology between, you can see, first is for the row and second is for the column. So this is how we are printing the value. So let's move on to the programming logic. So first is int I equal to 0, I less than matrix dot length, I plus plus. This is how number of rows get fetched. Means there are n number of rows. There are two rows, so it loop will execute two times, like we did here, right? Then int j is equal to 0, and then j less than matrix length and matrix I. That means number of rows till number of length. Means like this. Then I j plus plus. This is how we are fetching number of rows. Means 0 0 means we are fetching the data like this. Then 0 1, then 0 1 0 2, then 1 0, then 1 1, and then 1 2. This is how we are fetching number of rows the data. If I want to print the value, then I just need to make it as matrix I and matrix j. This is how we are just printing the value. So let's print the value of data in table. So how we can print the value matrix I and matrix j. If I do that, that means it will print the value of associated value. So let's check if it is printing the value that we have associated with it. You can see 40 20 30 52 42 has been printed here. So this is how a 2D array loop needs to be executed in the real time, like we did in the for each loop in 1D array. We generally don't do for each loop in our 2D array. We generally focused upon the for loop only. So I'm just giving an overview, or I'm giving a documentation how this look like. So only you just need to execute it from your own. It's a homework for you. Such that this is how the for each loops look like. First things, we are executing with the row matrix and then the value of the row, and we are then printing the value we have in the second row. This is how the for each loops will look like. And this is the end of our lecture between 1D and a 2D array difference. uses in the real-time projects, and that we are going to handle in the topics, and that's how the things will look like. Now moving on to the programs that are necessary for arrays topic. So these are the programs that you need to have a hard coded knowledge or have an idea how we are executing the same. So go one by one, and then we are dealing with it on the next lecture, which is on the tomorrow basis. So first is what linear search. So in the linear search, we are navigating a 1D array line by line and check if that element is present or not. Let's say I wanted to search such that Dahiya is an element that I wanted to fetch from this array is being present or not. If first we compare with Ajay with the Dahiya, that means this string is not equal, and then Dahiya with Dahiya is equal. After it is equal, that means we are element found. If it is not, let's say instead of Dahiya, it say one more A, that means both strings are not equal. It will navigate to is, it will navigate to educator, it will navigate to GFG. All those web element is now done, and since this element is not present, that means it will print the element not found in the linear search. So this is the same ideology when we are dealing with the Java collection, or that means in the automation perspective, when we are searching a data on a web page, same ideology is being used. So that's why linear search is very important. Similarly, when moving on to the maximum and minimum in array list, we need to find the maximum and minimum data in the array list we have provided. Similarly, we are after finding this same logic we are going to use to find the second highest or second minimum against the value. Then we have to check the duplicate element in an array. There are three different ways where we can find the duplicacy in an array. First, we are only dealing with, since we only haven't covered the Java collections, so there are set topic and map topic that we are not going to deal on the tomorrow's topic. We are only checking with the brute force method, where we are checking the duplicate, and then we have encountered one point why brute force has been changed or shifted to the map. So this we are dealing with the next lecture. Similarly, for we will find a missing element in an array. So let's say there is a sequential manner data is being present in the array, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8. This is how the array data looks like. If I remove this number 3 and ask you which element is being missing in this array, so we are going to do with this program to find out which element is missing in the array, and then we need to find the two elements within two common array. So this logic to find between two arrays is being implemented in automation as well, where we are finding a data from two different data sources, from X data and from Y data. We are then validating those data as well. So this ideology is being used in the automation. Similarly, linear search is being automation. So that's why we are going to use these functions in our next programming language. So that's all for today's, guys. Let's meet up on tomorrow with the same, probably on one niche timing. So have a great day, guys. I hope you are able to understand today's topic between 1D array and 2D array, and try to do on your homework as well. That's all. Drop a note in that section if everything looks good, and we can just wrap it up. I'm waiting for 1 more minute, and then we get. I'm stopping the screening then.